Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Friday Forum. We're going to be discussing summer 2022 recruiting in today's era. Just a reminder to follow PRSA on our Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn accounts for all updates regarding our Friday forums as well as our big events coming up. We are gearing up for Media Predicts that will happen in December. Early ticket prices will go out next week, and we look forward to adding to the lineup, and our social media channels will have all of the updates regarding reporters for the panel as well as sponsors. But welcome to today's event. I'm extremely excited for this. We have Brooke Kruger, who I think most of the PR industry knows. She is the founder of KC Partners, and she has been in the industry for years working with myself as well as all my peers. Welcome, Brooke.
Thank you. It's great to be here today.
Great. And we also have Kathleen Shanahan from BOCA Communications. Welcome, Kathleen.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Perfect. So I'm really excited about this panel, obviously. I love recruiting. I love getting people jobs and networking. It's just a fun thing to do within giving, helping your friends and your family out. And I think everybody can benefit from this discussion, whether or not you're looking for a job or you just want to hear kind of the state of the state. So Kathleen, why don't you kick it off and let us introduce us to what you're working on and what BOCA is doing.
Okay. My name is Kathleen Shanahan. I'm the founder of BOCA Communications. We're a boutique B2B high-tech PR agency headquartered out of San Francisco. Post-COVID era, it doesn't matter where you live, as long as you're smart and passionate and have pizzazz for PR, working at BOCA Communications. And we're always looking for kind, go-getter, hustling type of individuals. So that's what we like.
Great. And on to you, Brooke.
Great. I am Brooke Kruger, and I am the founder of KC Partners. I previously spent 6 years in PR and started recruiting on the agency side at Ketchum, and then applied, and then which became Bite. And then I started recruiting for PR in 2005 and started my own search firm in 2009, which is KC Partners. We focus exclusively on communication search. We work with agencies, corporations, startups, and VC firms, but 90% of our business is really pre to post IPO. High growth companies, mainly tech, and we work with candidates at all levels, and we place whole communications functions, or we place one-off positions as well.
Great. Kathleen had to walk away for just a quick second, but Brooke, how is it different this summer as opposed to last summer? What are the big differences just on like what employers are looking for, what the job market in general is looking for in candidates?
So that is a great question. So we had a little bit of a lull, like many in recruiting and comms hiring in early COVID days through the summer. And then it took off like a rocket ship starting probably fall 2020. Everybody was hiring, the Great Recession. You've heard all these stories. You look on LinkedIn and you see everybody getting new jobs. And this summer, it's a trickier market. Obviously with economic woes, and there are a lot of layoffs right now. I'm finding the people who are getting laid off aren't necessarily performing bad at their jobs. It's literally the companies are trying to cut cost. And summer is traditionally a little bit slower. For the first time in 2 years, people are taking 2-week vacations, and just interviewing is taking longer, and it's a slower process, So I would say summer's slower. I think it will pick up more in fall, but the bottom line, there's still good jobs out there. There's still comms hires being made. I think if anything in the pandemic made employers value their communications teams more and know it is a critical role. There is, though, a lot more competition. More people are looking and more people are on the market due to, potential layoffs and wanting a change too.
Yeah. Welcome, Vanessa. Kathleen, do you see any big changes just from the agency side from last summer to today?
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Brooke said. And I don't want to be doom and gloom by any means, but it's definitely much more different this summer than it was last summer. COVID was, a crazy time when everybody was scared and everybody was cutting. And then everybody realized that, business still had to keep going on. So, lo and behold, the job market came back. And now there's talks of recession. So people are yet again, fearful and wanting to tighten the belts. And in fact, I've literally had calls with Sequoia, Norwest so far, who's the other? SoftBank and Battery. And right now, they are telling their companies to be conservative, and what that transcends into is to cuts. So lo and behold, it is slower. But the positive, is if you're a really good candidate and you're really smart and you're good at what you do, you will get a position. And I'm going to say something again because I'm always super candid, but I have an operations coach that I work with, and he literally always says, this is the time when you can really actually look for really strong talent, because companies are, letting really smart individuals go. And it's a great time to actually go and find those top candidates. Oh,
I think you're on mute, Vanessa.
You're still on mute, Vanessa.
Well, we did get a question in the chat, and one of our viewers say it seems that the chief communications officer, head of comms roles are harder to come by. Are you seeing that, Brooke?
Not necessarily. We have some great head of comms positions right now. I still see those. Where I see tightening more is the supporting positions. So there will be head of comms roles that will have leaner teams that they'll be joining. And so there are head of comms positions, but they're very much building. But you may have headcount where the track was for you to come in, build a team, and have 5 hires before the end of the year. You may have 1 hire before the end of the year or none. So I'm still seeing those positions out there. We're still working on them. They're just, I think the teams are getting leaner. And again, this is always just my perspective, but that's what I'm seeing.
What about ageism? Is that a factor in some of these roles? That was from a question from our viewer as well.
I don't know if this is controversial. I see reverse ageism more, where it is you must have 10 years to be qualified for this role, and you in your 8 years you could have done amazing things, but companies have bands based on years of experience since college, and so I see that with leveling, if that makes sense. But I don't see ageism from my perspective on the more seasoned people. That's not to say it's not out there, but I don't see that with my clients.
Got it. Great. And Kathleen, what positions are you most interested in currently, and how has that differed from years past?
So I actually, do you mind if I touch upon ageism real quickly? And Alicia, I'm going to go ahead. I did a screenshot of your name, and I'm going to reach out to you after this. And I've been working on this, but I've been stalling on it. I'm working on a byline specifically about generations in the workforce and ageism. And I think that ageism is a thing that happens within our world. And there was a New York Times article several months back where the CEO was, I want to say, on her younger side, and the oldest employee at her entire company was 48 years old. And when they let that 48-year-old employee go, just the whole culture got better miraculously. And it horrified me as a woman that just turned 50, who's got 25 years of experience in B2B high-tech PR. So at BOCA, we are all about all ages, and we are all about multi-generations. Because, you could get those 25-year-olds that are just wicked smart, and you can also get those 55-year-olds that are wicked smart. And it's really important that when you do hire, you hire very much based on, I'm going to say, on culture, on what fits within an organization, and understanding, the audiences as well, like what your clients are, and who your clients are, and what they're wanting out of not your candidates, but once you hire and bring them in, what I apologize if I went off topic see a lot of ageism happening within our world. And I'm not going to say the name, but when I was looking to hire a vice president, and we recently hired a vice president, there was a candidate that was on the older side, and someone said to me, "Oh, are you sure you want that candidate? You know, they're a little bit, seasoned. Do I want that younger candidate that's in their 30s?" And in my brain, I was like, well, first off, this candidate is seasoned. She also has children that are about to exit the home from high school, and she's ready to actually hit her go-go years. And us people need to be working into our 60s to literally live, unless we've all somehow hit it big in Silicon Valley, because you're number 3 at Facebook, just far and few between. So I just think it's really, really important to look at the candidate for who they are from literally a human being perspective, and also can they do the work. So I mean, I'm sorry about my Wi-Fi. There's nothing, I don't know what I can do about the Wi-Fi. Are people able to hear me?
Yeah, at times you came a little bit low, but for the most part, yes. One of the things that strikes me when you talk about, that children are leaving the home and now they're kind of at their prime, and to give everything they can to their career and have that more time, but also learning from the younger generation.
Absolutely.
So one thing that I love to do is network with people that are right out of college, that they're in their 20s, that are about 20 years younger than me, and hear from them. It's almost like reverse mentoring. And I find there's a lot of value in that. Does your agency do that? Is that kind of ad hoc, or what have you heard in the industry about reverse mentoring?
Absolutely. I always say, when it comes to, especially when it comes to social media programs, dare I say, the 25-year-old to 35-year-old candidate is way better than I am at that kind of stuff. I mean, they're digital natives. I'm an analog native, so a digital native is going to know a lot more than I'm going to know, and I think that's great. So we absolutely have I'd say reverse mentoring, and we're just a very flat organization. We're so flat that we have an equal win rate. So I cost the same amount of money as an account coordinator, because I truly believe intelligence comes in all forms. So back to recruiting, which is the topic, is just we're looking for smart people regardless of age or ethnicity or where they're located in the country in a post-COVID world.
Yeah, that's great. Brooke, a question for you. You had mentioned that you're doing a lot of recruitment for in-house positions.
Yes.
What are your candidates looking for? What's important to them? Is it the mentoring? Is it the perks? What are the top?
Great question. So I think if I look at themes, people want a really positive culture. They want to, work for companies that have a mission that they believe in, and that they want to, I think we're living in an age where benefits are king. And so especially in tech. So, people want good benefits, but people expect amazing benefits. There's, and I think most tech companies have similar offerings, but I think it's really about the people you're going to be working with, the type of work you're going to get to do, and that the company, stands for something bigger than themselves.
Yeah, that's great. And next week, we'll be talking to Allison PR regarding purpose. So keep that on your radar.
Yeah.
Great. One question we had that came through the chat was, what about hiring women of color for comms jobs? What's your take on discrimination based on that?
All of my clients prioritize diversity, and they want to look at, candidates with all sorts of diverse backgrounds. So I see the searches I'm working on, people want to see diversity.
That's
DEI,
great.
DEI is probably one of the biggest topics of, I'd say, it started in 2020 with Black Lives Matter, and it's moved all the way into 2022. So DEI is I'd say front and center for everybody right now.
And candidates want to work at companies that truly value DEI and don't just talk about it.
And so how do they show that value without talking about it? What are interesting things you've seen companies do that truly kind of walk the walk or walk the talk?
I mean, it's hard for me to say because I'm not working internally at these companies. So I think it would just depend on the different companies, but yeah, I don't know if I can answer that question just because not being inside.
Got it. Kathleen, do you want to talk about what BOCA's doing?
Sure. So we have an awesome culture committee. It's just incredible, and it's spearheaded by this gentleman by the name of Anthony Lamb. And our culture committee really sets the tone of our entire organization, and they ensure, and they interview people. They're very, very, very much involved with everything to do with BOCA. So we don't have a head of, and actually in my paper that I'm writing, there are a lot of organizations that have heads of DEI. And to me, I think it's great that you have a head of DEI, but to me, that also means companies having to they have to have this head of DEI to ensure that there is diversity within their organization. Whereas we have a culture committee rather than a head of DEI, and that culture committee sets our tone. And our organization is, we're a 25% organization. We're not a 500-person organization, and I would say we're very ethnically diverse, especially also within the Latina population. We've got a fair amount of Latinos working at BOCA. And so I just say, it starts with the culture committee, and then there's organizations that have, heads of DEI, like Highwire has one. I was in San Francisco and I was sitting at a restaurant, and there was this woman, and she was the head of DEI for the Match Group, which owns all of, the day sites, Match.com and all that. So, I think that organizations have completely embraced DEI. Like if you go to the Ink House website, there's an entire webpage all about DEI. So I just think it's being ingrained within our organization. And I'm going to go back to the fact that, COVID has opened up doors for us to recruit in locations and areas that we used to not be able to recruit in. Like it used to be only San Francisco. Like, oh, are you from the Bay Area? Or
Yep.
Are you willing to recruit from the Bay Area? And a year and a half ago, there was a speaker, and it's like, there's not a lot of, African Americans in the Bay Area, believe it or not. Like there are in Oakland, that's the main population. But and I'm not saying that to be racist, it's literally a statistic. Whereas, you can go to Atlanta, you can go to Miami, you can go to Texas, you can go to Florida. Like recruiting COVID has been a really great opening door to, I'd say, level the playing field across the recruit world. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've seen it in my own company. We are based in Arizona with offices in San Francisco and Chicago, and it's just amazing how much we've grown to cover the whole U.S. And you get different perspectives, you get different skill sets, but also just different ways of life. And I think that all comes together and makes a stronger team. So that's great to hear.
Absolutely. I would say the pre-COVID, I barely placed anybody outside of SF, LA, or New York. And now in the past year, I've placed people from Utah to Atlanta to Philly to Maine to Colorado. That's actually a good thing to touch on. Like, what are companies looking for right now in terms of in the office work? What I'm finding is most of the jobs are fully remote, but able to travel. But there's been a push in the last couple weeks saying, hey, come fall, we'd like people to spend 2 days in the office. So when you're looking for people, can they be in that area? I don't think people are going to be eliminated if they're amazing and as long as they can travel to the headquarters. But companies are starting to value coming into the office more and trying to put some loose parameters around that.
That's good.
Yeah. I personally think that's I wish that companies weren't doing that. I think, the Amazing Mission North, they just shut down their offices. They don't need to be paying for an office. So I can't talk for their recruiting policies, but, come March 2023, the day I don't have to pay that lease is going to be like, I'm throwing a party. But
we'll have a going away party.
Bye lease. Let me light you on fire. So the point of the story is there's also a lot of agencies like us where we don't care where people are located. It is nice to have pockets. We've got like a pocket in the Midwest. We got a pocket now in Southern California. a pocket in Northern California. But it's really nice. And it's also super nice to have people across time zones as well. Like to have someone on the West, on the East Coast. And, before it was like, oh, shoot, do I have to open up an office to be competitive on the East Coast? It's so awesome because I don't have to open up an office on the East Coast to be competitive, but I can hire a really awesome person that is out of the East Coast and service, East Coast, Central Time and Pacific Time. So I'm going to go back to like COVID has been this weird gift. If in hindsight, I'd say for just Silicon Valley and for areas around the United States. So I hope we don't care where you are, and it bums me out that companies are going to be forcing people to do that because the cost of living in the Bay Area is also insane. So if you could be making a six-figure salary and living in Utah, why not?
Yes, absolutely. So that leads me to my next question. When you have a workforce that's all across different time zones, do you have guidelines as far as like you need to be online 9 to 5 with headquarters or 9 to 5 with your time zone? Or how do you manage that and make sure that you have coverage, but also that people are working within a usual workday? If that's even a usual workday with PR. I mean, I think all of us work pretty hard and 24/7 just given issues and reporter deadlines. But how do you manage that, and what is your guidelines to your employees?
For ourselves personally, I just assume people are going to work within their own time zone, and and we're super flexible. So my assumption is that we're hiring adults, and the adult can be a 55-year-old adult or a 25-year-old adult. Adult is an adult that can take responsibility, and that individual will be able to work with when they're working and produce the best work. But my expectation is that you're working in your time zone. If there's a need for you to if you're an East Coast person and you need to work Pacific time zone, I'm fine with that. And we have a central time zone individual that keeps Pacific time just because of her clients that, she's gifted 2 hours of her freedom every morning, wakes up. But my expectation is just regular hours and to work hard, play hard, and enjoy life, if that answers the question. But, I'll never forget when I worked at this PR agency in San Francisco that was East Coast owned. And they actually thought it was okay to have someone at 8:45 with a roster walking around looking at who was sitting at their seat by 8:30, 8:45. And I'm a 9 o'clock kind of girl. Like I'm a producer at 3 o'clock. Like, so when I would roll in at like 8:50, but the guy that was there at 8:30 and the door was hitting him in the ass at 5:30, but I was sitting there from 9 o'clock till 7 o'clock. Like that's just old fashioned. I just don't think we work that way. And if you do it that way, that individual's old fashioned to rethink their thinking. Sorry.
I like that. I think one of the biggest things for me, personally with the pandemic is just being able to have more of that work-life balance and being a working parent and being able to take that time during the middle of the day. Whereas if we were in the office, you couldn't do stuff that you could close to home. And it's all on your own time, which helps when you're working and parenting kids. So that's great to hear. Brooke, what have you been hearing from the in-house side of things? Are people looking for candidates in their time zone? Do they care? What are some of the parameters that companies?
Great question. So large teams would prefer that, like Kathleen said, that people are in different pockets across the coast covering time zones. I think I do have a few positions, and I filled a few positions where if the company, most people are on the West Coast, then they want someone who's based on the West Coast, but they can kind of be anywhere. So, I mean, it's, every company has their needs, but if it's a large team, having, people on the East Coast who can pull things in the morning and then having people on the West Coast really helps.
That's great. What about work travel? Now that restrictions have been lifted, not all, of course, and we're still in a pandemic, but are you seeing candidates when they hire or when they're interviewing for roles, do they have to confirm to 10, 20% travel like as in the past?
I'm seeing that more now, where it's like travel, are you in a situation where you could travel once a quarter? And there's some companies that are doing fully remote, but we're meeting up as a company every quarter. And that meeting will be in a certain location. And so the expectations are set out. But I'm very clear up front. Like, you can work remote, but you will have to travel when needed. And, people are fine with that in general.
Yeah, I'm going to echo.
And there's a lot more business travel too right now. Like, when I'm talking to candidates in the market and clients, they're all on business trips. Like, business travel is happening again for sure.
Kathleen, what are you seeing from your clients? Are they wanting to meet more face-to-face, having the teams?
None of our clients want to meet face-to-face anymore. It's really interesting. I mean, as my father would say, none is a universal statement. The majority of our clients do not want to meet or feel the need to meet face-to-face. Everything is done via Zoom. That said, we do offer, we still like to go out to dinner with our clients every once in a while, just kind of like the regular stuff. And then, like what Brooke said, we do like to meet, every quarter or so. So it's very, I'm going to answer, it's very ad hoc, but if I'm personally going to hire someone, I do want them to be able to travel a little bit so that we can meet each other on every, 4 to 6 months or what have you, and have our all hands. I'm so tired of actually Zoom all hands. Like, we have our annual State of the Union. It's always in February. And for the last 2 years, it's been Zoom, even this last year. And I really want an in-person all hands. Like, I'm tired of, I want to meet. I'm craving to see my people personally. So travel, I do want people that will travel. And back to the client question, clients, it's hit or miss is how I'm going to answer it. But, I like to meet clients and only they're comfortable, but there's no big mandatory meetings right now. Like, all of our quarterly business reviews are done via Zoom. All of our planning sessions, narratives, like, we're still living in a very Zoom world.
Okay. Switching gears a bit, the application process. So I read this post the other day on LinkedIn about get rid of the cover letters. Why do we have to do that? And that's a waste of time. It's too much stress on the candidate. What are your thoughts on cover letters? I'll go to you first, Brooke.
So I think you need to have a really strong resume, and you don't need a cover letter. But if you're working with me, I would, as Megan, we've worked together in the past, I will chat with you and do a little submission on why I think you're a fit. So for me, I would just need a resume. But I did see that post too, and I thought the comments were so interesting because, some people love cover letters and they love writing cover letters and they love that, and then other people just won't even read them either. So, but for me personally, I do not need a cover letter. Just a strong resume.
Yeah, that's great. And Kathleen, is that the same on the agency level, or what are you seeing?
I kind of enjoy a cover letter. A cover letter is where a personality can come out, like a resume is very, a resume is a resume, and it's data oriented, it's factual, but human beings aren't factual. And you have to go back to the importance of culture within candidates, and a cover letter, words, the way one describes themselves in written word is how I really know who a person is. So this is again, so I personally love a cover letter. If you're going to put in a resume, please do a cover letter so we can get to know who you are. Sorry.
All right. Now folks know. Put your personality in that cover letter if you want a job at BOCA. We had a question that came through the chat. This is for you, Brooke. With more talent available in the market, do you present more number of candidates to your clients, or is it simply more qualified for smaller number of candidates?
It's hard to answer that question, but I feel like for recent searches, we are presenting more candidates than usual. I think people are really picky right now in hiring. The searches are specific, and they want to see a wider view of the market, and that could be traced back to because there's more availability on the market.
Another one that came in is today with algorithms, you need to have the right keywords in your cover letter and CV. I would say that's true. Do you agree?
I would say that's true in your CV and in your LinkedIn profile. A lot of times when I am sourcing candidates, I will find a candidate and they'll say, "That's so interesting. I just updated my LinkedIn and changed a few things around." So then they may have appeared in the, to me in a search that there weren't previously. So I would say, yeah, keep your have the right keywords, have your LinkedIn mapped. This is a good point, but have your LinkedIn mapped to your resume. Sometimes I get resumes and they don't match LinkedIn, which just doesn't make sense. When we send a resume to a client, we put their LinkedIn profile in. So it is critical. LinkedIn is a huge tool. Your LinkedIn profile needs to be just as strong as your resume right now.
What about our companies looking at participation on LinkedIn and how much you're posting and what you're posting about? Is that important in recruiting?
I haven't seen that yet, but I don't think in any way that would hurt you. I mean, I live and breathe LinkedIn. Like I've been an early user. And so I think LinkedIn is one of the greatest tools out there for hiring candidates.
Me too. I'm actually really enjoying people giving a little bit more personal posts, whether it's, them traveling with their family and giving their thanks to their company, work-life balance, even their views on political issues. I feel like people's personalities are really coming out. And as pre-pandemic, it was just so business.
Yes.
And
Yes.
while that was pretty much the objective, we're living in a different culture now, and you need to bring your whole self to the workforce. And it's just really interesting to see that change. And it's just more enjoyable, actually. I really enjoy reading those personal posts.
I agree. I mean, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and it's filled with content these days, just filled. Unfortunately, there's a lot of layoff content, but I think it's good that people feel comfortable to put the news that they're laid off out there so people can help them. So I do agree with how people are doing that right now.
Kathleen, how are you all using LinkedIn, and what's your point of view?
Well, I love LinkedIn. I'm right there with Brooke. Like I peruse LinkedIn on a regular basis, and both from candidates, but also, new business as well, and all that kind of good stuff. And in regards to like personal posts, I agree. And I'm going to go back to like when Bill Bourdin, I butchered his last name, when Bill from Mission North put the post that they were walking in their office, like my heart just like went out to him. You know what I mean? It was like, I could just relate to this man so well. And he doesn't even know, I'll just send him an email after this. And because I was like, God, I feel for you, it makes it, I like and it goes back to, I guess, partially my personality in BOCA, but like the intimacy. Like I do want to see posts of people, and I do want to, see who they are as a human being versus just being like robotic and static. So, but yeah, I'm a big fan of LinkedIn.
That's great. What about like Twitter or any other social media channels? Are people going outside LinkedIn to find candidates just on those platforms? Is that even okay?
I mean, it could be a tool. It's not necessarily a tool I would just encourage whatever you post on those things, make sure you're comfortable with the world seeing it or have heavy privacy settings. I remember when I was first recruiting and Facebook had just kind of taken off, and people were, posting pictures that they, I don't think they would have wanted their employers to see, but the privacy settings weren't there. So I think that, everybody has a digital footprint. So just be careful what you post, just like you would tell your children right now, So
I totally
my children don't have social media yet. So, but if they get it. Yeah.
I know. Girls, you hear that? You have a digital footprint already. I've got 3 preteens downstairs. I'm like, TikTok, no.
What I find is interesting is I have a 15-year-old, and he's on Instagram, but he doesn't post anything. he'll do like a story here and there of just some fun outing he's doing, but he doesn't post anything. And him and his friends just don't have any static posts. And I think that's really interesting of this next generation. He just doesn't want to have that type of history, which I totally respect. But
Totally.
Great. Let's talk about skill set. I know, Kathleen, you're hiring for all different levels on the agency side. Somebody right out of college, what are you looking at specifically in their skill set, their experience, internships?
So we have an intern program, and pretty much we don't hire account coordinators. We hire interns who then convert over to account coordinators. We all know the AE to SAE is this wild unicorn that barely exists. We actually found one. I was like, yes, when we brought in this, I'll start with it. We brought in this vice president, and what really spoke to me about her was she had a lot of language around revenue operations, RevOps, and she came in, she's a PR professional, but she was running the PR division of a company called SmartBug Media, which is an inbound marketing firm. And what I loved about her is that she had the PR, guys. However, she also is firmly like rooted in this thinking about inbound marketing, demand generation, revenue operations. And she also, because she worked at SmartBug Media, had to have all these HubSpot certifications. So she's like HubSpot certified all over the place. That was incredibly helpful to me as a vice president. Then she was successfully recruited in an AE that she worked at from that organization. And for the AE, what we're looking for in the AE candidate, media relations. Can it's a she, so can she write? Can she pitch? Does she get along with everybody in the organization? And, strong media relations. Then with an intern, so an entry level person, we're looking for, are they qualified? They're young, they're just entering the workforce. Can they actually, can they do deductive reasoning? Are they a culture fit? So it's like very different things that we're, I guess across the board, we're looking for, is it a competent individual, and are they adults? And I always say, there could be 55-year-old children and 25-year-old adults. So we're really looking for people that are mature, good work hard, play hard ethics. And at that entry level position is, do we see a future in them? And every time I interview a candidate, even when it's an intern, I think, will that candidate be a vice president one day? Will that candidate be a VP? And if I believe that candidate will be a vice president one day, they'll get the job. But I'm already thinking about that when I'm interviewing the fresh out of college individual.
I love that. And then you can go back 10 years from now and see if that prediction was made true. So that's great. So on a personal level, Brooke and I worked together, I think about 10 or so years ago. And I was at the agency level for my whole career, 13 years. I wanted something different. I came to that point where I'm just like, I need to look around and see what I'm good at. I want to look internal, all that good stuff. And I had spent so much of my career already on the agency side, and I was a vice president. And, we worked together in trying to find the right fit. And so for Brooke, what are you seeing as far as agency people moving into in-house? Is that becoming more challenging? Is there a time like 5 to 7 years? I always think I kind of left the agency too late when I wanted to go in-house. But I'm interested in your perspective.
Yes. This is a tricky subject matter. If I'm hiring for agencies, they want people who are in the agency and want to be in the agency world. And if I'm hiring for in-house positions, they want people with previous in-house experience. There's always exceptions. So this, and you have to get your first in-house job somewhere, but clients are very specific. And I can think of, several people I've placed through my career who have been amazing hires, and my clients that I am only hiring someone in-house, and that person, one of them, your former boss, Megan, went in-house, and they've done a great job, and they've set. So I mean, I'm from the agency side. I worked at Ketchum and Applied and Bite. Like, I truly believe that agency people can offer so much, and so that it is tricky. And I'm not going to lie, I get a lot of pushback from clients to say, but it's kind of like, I work with a lot of gig economy clients. I work with Instacart and DoorDash and GoPuff. Like, gig economy experience going to another gig economy is really valuable. So it's you could say that type of situation too. But I mean, and if I look back with you, Megan, I don't think you waited too long. I'm a very optimistic, glass half full person. And so the timing has got to be right for you. And if it's not, it's not right. So you'll find the next one. But I do believe agency people can get in-house. And then Kathleen, I'd love to hear your take though, because I have people who are in-house and like, I'll go back to the agency side. And I'm like, is that what you really want to do? Or do you just want to, is that what you want to do at the moment? Because I feel like agency people want people who are, agency people too. Does that make sense?
Yes. Hold on a second. Wait. This is having a COVID moment. Hey, girls, where are you going? Okay. Walk on the trail. Sorry. There they are.
Get them outside, off screens. No.
Okay. I'm on. No.
All this summer when you're a kid.
Cover's here. Okay, go walk on earth beds. Call your mom. Sorry. I'm like, text her mom. Have you seen Vivian? I'm like, yeah, she's at my house. So I answer. I think the way there are agency people and there are in-house people. I believe that. I believe that you can go, you can be an agency person and go in-house and you might love it, or you can be an in-house person with the agency and you'll hate it. For the most part, I think that there are people that are bred to be an agency and there are people that are in-house. Not one's better than the other, but it's just a matter of fact. I again, and this is my own personal experience, and please don't get upset when I say this for the in-house or what have you. I hated being in-house. I was there. I loved working in a publicly traded company. It was super cool. Yay, stock. I loved traveling the world. I was 29 years old. I didn't have any husband and kids. It was great. Woo! I was so bored. I was so bored working in-house personally. And I wanted the 5 clients. I wanted the change. I wanted all the differences. And I believe that most people that are agency people, they want that. They want all the differences. And maybe it's just severe ADHD. I don't know. But most people that want to be like, and most people also, I feel like, to be in-house, like, you feel like, I'm going to go in-house. And like, it's like I've arrived. I'm in-house. So it's like, it's great to have that experience, but it's okay. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say, it's like, if I have someone that's been in-house coming to the agency, I am skeptical. I'm thinking, they've never been in an agency before. They're thinking they might like it. They might not like it. So I'm a little fearful if I see someone that has 10 years experience and it's been all in-house and they've never been on the agency, I'm making a bet on that person. I'm making a bet that person might actually like the agency side, and they've never been on the agency side. If I'm interviewing someone that's been on the agency side, went in-house for a couple of years, and they're coming back to agency, I know that person already knows what an agency is, because an agency is totally different than house. It's completely different worlds, like, in my humble opinion. So I don't know if I answered the question. So
I would definitely agree with that. And I've seen a lot of my peers, go agency, in-house, agency, and kind of go back and forth, just depending on what they're into and what opportunities that they have presented to them. But I always tell people too, when they're in-house, if they start their career in-house and they ask me, I say, the agency life is a great experience. And it is tough. I mean, it is stress. You have customer service skills and you have PR skills, but you get an opportunity to work on different companies, keep your mind going. You have all these different things to learn. You work with multiple people with different goals. I think there's so many benefits, and it's interesting just to see how people go back and forth. And I think that's great.
Yeah, it's all good experience.
Yeah. Okay. There was one question that came in through the chat. Are there any data points to show whether employers prefer a seasoned or younger candidate with less experience if both have the same skill set?
I mean, I don't have those data points to share. Again, a lot of the roles I work on are particular on having at least a certain number of years, but they are open to more than those years.
I don't know about any data points. I'm going to go back to the fact that it's about the candidate. I mean, if it's the same experience, it's about the cultural fit. Like if everything for us is, are they qualified and are they a good cultural fit?
Yeah. Okay. One of the things that happened, like with the Great Resignation, and I've seen it at my own company, is when you get candidates in, and everybody's competing for this top tier talent. But in the days that 4 or 5 years ago, you would interview with a company and you'd go through like 5 or 7 interviews that would take 2 months or so. And then with the Great Resignation, it was like, oh, one and done, because people just wanted to get those people on board. What are you seeing on the life cycle from, applying to interviewing to getting that offer letter? What's the timetable, both on the agency? We'll start first, and also on the corporate.
You want to start with me first? Our interview process has been the same for as many years as I've owned BOCA. We always, there's one woman that has to interview everybody. I'll say her name. She's awesome. I'm going to plug her. Don't recruit her. Her name is Elisa Vasilevsky. She's the biggest bullshit detector in the world. Every time if I hired someone and she didn't interview, I'm like, oh, why did I not have her interview? So we have one woman that interviews every single one of our candidates, no matter what. We always have someone that's in the kind of like AE realm, and then also in the senior realm. So if you're a vice president, it's not like the only vice president will interview you. No, because those vice presidents are going to be managing account executives and assistant account executives. And again, everybody has to vibe on each other. We have really, it's like 3 to 4 interviews. It does start with our HR director, Wendy, who kind of she'll vet the candidate, and then she's like, this is a great fit for us. And then we have multiple titles interview with the candidate regardless of their title. And Elisa literally has to interview every single person now, because when I don't use her, I mess up. Yeah, back to again, bullshit detector.
Bullshit detector. I love it. Everybody should have one of those.
Yes.
Brooke, what about you?
So every company has their own process, but it's usually an interview with a hiring manager, then an interview with if that goes well, then people on the team, and then internal partners, and then maybe the head of the team. So there's usually 3 to 5 rounds. I find some companies move quickly. Venture capital firms move a little slower. Pre-IPO companies seem to move really quickly. It depends. But I am not seeing anyone get hired without speaking to at least 4 to 7 people. And then there's also, which we haven't talked about, assignments. Assignments, like them or not, are still prevalent in communications. Candidates don't like them. If you do have to do assignment, the best thing is to make it relevant to the job versus just a case study on something random. So if the person does get the job, then they have a little bit of a head start. But assignments are pretty controversial because everyone's busy, and then requesting an assignment from someone, takes a lot of time. But companies want to, test out skills and creative thinking and strategic thinking. And, interviews are 99% on Zoom. And maybe if I've seen a couple times, if you're the finalist and you're ready to make an offer, then a quick meet for coffee if both parties feel safe and comfortable. But but then timing wise, I mean, in a perfect world, a candidate would get hired within 3 weeks of resume submission. But it's not a perfect world, as we know, and some jobs take. My average in placing people is within 1 to 2 months. If it's a 3-month search, that seems too long for me.
Great.
But then things can always happen too, where you have to start over searches during them. Then it would be another, 1 to 2 months.
Okay. Let's talk about compensation. So when you work with candidates, are we still giving hiring bonuses? Is that still a thing now that the market has calmed down a bit?
Yes, there's still sign-on bonuses.
Okay.
But I find that sign-on bonuses sometimes allow people to get to the band. Or
Okay.
sorry, I'm saying that wrong. So if someone was looking for 100K and the band at the company only paid up to 90K, then a sign-on bonus is coming in now to kind of get them to that bridge versus just throwing sign-on bonuses at people to close the deal. That's what I'm not seeing.
Got it.
So for
Kathleen?
a while, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So for a while, when jobs were coming in, there was a band, and people were almost coming over band. That's not happening anymore with this market.
Kathleen, are you seeing that on the agency side with hiring? Do folks request that sign-on bonus? Is it a thing? Yeah.
No one's requesting sign-on bonuses right now. And I agree with Brooke. Like if there is any kind of bonus, it's just to get someone to where they want to be in with it. If you don't have the salary for that. But no, we're not seeing that at all. And no expectations of it either. And I can say something super politically incorrect right now, which is like sometimes these markets are good, because I already said my age, so I've seen these markets, 4 times, and there can be a lot of entitlement when you've never seen this market. So sometimes it is okay for there to be a little bit of a shakeup. Housing market, you know what I mean? It's like not everyone can afford $1 million house, it doesn't, so shake it up a little bit so someone can get a $500,000 house. So it's just, I think sometimes when there's tougher markets make for tougher people, I guess. And usually just like COVID, some good can come out of it.
Great. I was having dinner with my mentor that is much younger than me the other day, and just learning from her. Total different industry, but keeps me updated on just overall business trends and what she's seeing, and I love her point of view. And one thing she said was she talked about this person at her company who didn't pass their 90-day, and it was a higher level exec. And they didn't make it through. And I thought to myself in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't think I've ever in PR thought about the 90-day and having that more of like the trial part. And people that I've managed, it's just like you hire them, they do a great job, and no one even talks or thinks about the 90-day. So I'm just interested in both of your opinions on that. Do people talk? Do they have that trial of the 90 days? Is that even a thing in PR?
Brooke, you go first.
Well, there's usually with recruiting, there's usually there's at least a 90-day guarantee for a candidate. Yeah. So the candidate needs to stay 90 days, but it's usually more like 180 days. But it's, it's not really talked about like, hey, I made it 90 days, so.
So first off, I love that you just mentioned that like kills me in a fabulous way because I've not heard the 90 days in so long. But I'll never forget my first job ever out of college at Butterfield & Butterfield in San Francisco because I was going to be in decorative arts, not high-tech PR. There was a 90-day period, and you didn't even get medical or dental insurance. Like I don't even know, is that legal nowadays? Is like the 90 days even a legal thing? I'm not sure, but it was back then. If you didn't make your 90 days, you were fired. You were let go like the day before the 90 days, and you didn't get your medical or dental. So we do not talk about 90 days, but I actually wish, dare I say it, the 90 days was still here because I do.
You could implement it. I
honestly don't think it's legal, and now people are going to hate me, and that's okay. But and we talked about this earlier. A recruiter brought forward a candidate. He was just the most lovely man, and if he's on this call, I would never say his name because he was so nice, so kind, and he was by far not qualified for the position he was presented into. And it actually broke my heart for him because he was a great cultural fit, but he did not have the skill set for the title he was being positioned into. So when I interviewed him, I actually even pushed him down. I was like, you're not qualified for that position, but maybe this position. He wasn't even qualified for the position below that. And so where am I going with that? Where was I going with that is that we did end up, we parted ways. And again, and I normally, a lot of times the HR person does it. I was on the phone with candidates. I liked it so much. And I just, my heart went out to them. And I told them, I said, you really need to interview in for positions that you're truly qualified for. Back to bullshit detector. And so where am I going with that? Where I'm going with that is I never hear about 90 days. I actually wish 90 days did exist. It would make life a lot easier for employees and employers. And then 3, when a candidate is interviewing or when anybody's interviewing, know what you really are and don't try and sell yourself up, because when you get into that position, you will not only fail, but then you're doing a disservice for all the people around you. Because when a candidate or an individual is not carrying his or her weight, it falls on everybody else on that team. And that's just it's just sucky. So to the people that are interviewing, be fair and honest to yourself of what you're truly qualified for. That salary will come. It will come. It might not come the day you're asking for it, but as my father said, you have a career, not a job. A job is working at Starbucks unless you're going to be the general manager. A career is you start at point A, you'll get to point Z. You might start at 55,000 as a coordinator, but one day you'll be a VP with 175, 200, 225 bonus packages. It will come. So just have the patience and grow where you're supposed to grow is my biggest ask to, I'd say, candidates and recruiters, and HR people.
Great. So we just have a couple of minutes left. I'd want to get both of your kind of last thoughts, advice to job seekers. Let's start with you, Brooke. What should a probably mid-career person looking to an internal role be prepared for? What should they do as far as their resume? Any tips and tricks that you'd recommend that person with probably 7 to 10 years experience?
Yeah, I think your resume needs to be clear and concise. There's always a debate on how long. I'm totally fine with the 2-page resume if you have a lot of experience. I think 1 page gets pretty jumpy, but I think more important is when you do get the interview, be prepared. Understand, why do you want this job? What do you have that can make an impact on this job? And why should they hire you? And then also have fresh examples of challenges, successes, and media hits in your head. And so if you're going for an interview, you spend time preparing and talk through your answers to questions like, what's my best media hit? What's the time I had to deal with a challenging executive? What's the situation I had to overcome? How would my teammates describe me? And so when you are talking to people, you are clear, you're concise, you're articulate, and you can really sell yourself, as long as Kathleen points as you're qualified for that job. So,
love it. Kathleen, what would your advice be?
It's the same as Brooke's. Know the position you're going into. Be prepared. Right. Be prepared for, if you're media person, have media references, because people are going to want to talk to your media references. Have writing samples. Have all that good stuff. And yeah, same as Brooke said, just be really prepared and qualified for the position that you're interviewing for.
Totally. And on that point, if you are talking about a media story you got, the reporter, the subject matter, the title, when it came out. And so the details are all fresh in your minds.
Great. Well, thank you both so much. This was a great hour. I really appreciate your insights and time with us today.
Absolutely. And if you haven't reached out to me yet, you can find me on LinkedIn and feel free to connect with me and ping me with any follow-up questions.
Ditto. I'm on LinkedIn, and I've got I followed mine is the first primary story. I don't even have my LinkedIn is literally a story, and I talk about Barbara Bates and how she's my mentor. So
I love Barbara. So
I love Barbara. You're awesome, Barbara.
In case you're listening. Okay,
Awesome.
great.
Thank you
Well, have a great weekend. And thanks for
Absolutely.
everyone joining us. And again, if you're interested in PRSA Silicon Valley, join us. You can go to our website. You can go to our social media pages. And also next week, we'll return for Friday Forum with Allison and Partners. So please join us. Everyone is welcome. And I hope everybody has a nice weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.